Shalom. I want to start this off by giving honor, praise, and glory to Yahweh, Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Yahweh Kakwadash. Peace and salutations to the elect men and elder men that are laboring diligently, pushing forth the will and doctrine of Yahweh, Hashem, Yahweh Shai, day by day, according to the true understanding of the scriptures. To all you, I say Shalom. So, the title of this lesson, and this is something that, basically, the Lord had woke me up to this morning. As far as like pushing me, urging me to, Salakia, just a cat that be roaming around the area. Well, he like a bandit. He just be like climbing into mother's cribs. But, Salakia, the Lord, urged my spirit to do this lesson, and it started off with one scripture, but how I deal as far as I should say how I operate when it comes to doing lessons efficiently. I should say for myself, I like to make notes just to keep everything precise and to the point, keeping it, plain and simple. But basically the title of this lesson would be something like this or something along the lines of this, but being in this ministry, you have to be willing to face yourself in the mirror, i.e. the Most High's word, right? There's truth, the true understanding of the scriptures, with you being in this ministry, that's something that you have to do, you have to face yourself, right? And you have to face yourself in the mirror, because the Lord's word is really a mirror, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get what is the purpose of a mirror, right? And what it goes on to say in the Google AI overview, because it's something that's really important to pay attention to. And it gives more insight to why it's so important to read, why it's so important to study, why it's so important to make sure that you are constantly submerged within the Lord's word, right? Why it's important to fill your spirit with his words over the words of the world, because through him is that increased giving. Through him is the inheritance given. Through him is everlasting life given, all these things you're able to receive through him and moving in the right way, and in order for you to know what's right and wrong, to know what's the right way, what's the wrong way, you got to be examining yourself, and that's really what a mirror goes into, you know what I'm saying? So we gonna hop straight into it, right? So this is in Google, right? What is the purpose of a mirror, right? And the AI overview says the primary purpose of a mirror is to reflect light and create an image of what's in front of it. It says this allows us to see ourselves or objects that might otherwise be out of view. It says mirrors have various uses, including self-reflection, improving visibility, and even enhancing the appearance of a space. You see? So there's a lot that's here, but it all ties into the scriptures, and it all ties into what's right, what's deemed right, because we know people, use good things for malicious intent and things like that, right? So that ain't to say that this is the only way that you could deal with a mirror, but nonetheless, this should be you know, the way that you go about using a mirror, if you will, you know, the analogy of a mirror, if you will, because ultimately, really, that what's synonymous with the mirror is really the Lord's word, you know, because his word pushes you to reflect on yourself. And with you truly reflecting on yourself, you're able to really see yourself, right? But the Lord doesn't want you to just look upon yourself. He wants you to change what is being shown to you if it is bad, you know? You are to be trying to do what you can to make sure that it's a good reflection, you know? It's one that's going to be appealing, or something that's going to please the Lord, if you will, right? So that's basically what we're going to touch on and get into. So reading this again, right? It says the primary purpose of a mirror is to reflect light. And that's so heavy, you know, because you reflect in that light. That light is of the Lord, you know. That light is synonymous with righteousness, synonymous with life, you know, right? Where there's shadows and darkness, you know what I'm saying, wickedness can't abide there. But if light is shown on it, you know, it has no home, you know, it can't abide there, right? It says, the primary purpose of a mirror is to reflect light and create an image of what's in front of it, right? So that image is like you looking at yourself, you know, looking at your inward man, and your outward man, you know, because they coexist with one another. You know what I'm saying? So how do you go about looking at yourself? Because this world that we live in doesn't push for you to look at yourself. It pushes for you to look at everything else that's around you, you know? And you can see how manifold this is, because even having godly men around you can help be a mirror onto you as well. You know, like how the saying goes, you can see me better than I can see myself, right? Because like right now with like the phone, I can see my reflection, right? But if I'm looking at somebody else, I'm not physically looking at myself. In that moment, that person can see me better than I can see myself, you know? Like physically, if you will, right? Just as that example, you know what I'm saying? So having that body, all right, having that group of men can be that mirror to reflect that light and create an image for you to be able to see what's in front of it. You know what I'm saying? To see you ultimately, right? And that's really what the Lord does, and that's what the scriptures do. Because this whole book is an accumulation of godly men and those godly brothers to help you reflect on yourself, you know? But continuing here, it says this allows us to see ourselves or objects that might otherwise be out of view. You see? And that's like, you could look at that onto the beam in the mote that's in your eye, right? You want to make sure that you get that out your eye first before you go on to help somebody else, you know? But the way that you're going to be able to do that is using this word as that mirror to see yourself, you know? And it says, mirrors have various uses, including self-reflection, right? And proven visibility, which is heavy, because we see how with you just looking at everything else around you, you blind to yourself, you know? But if you have a mirror in front of you, you're able to see, you know what I'm saying, a whole lot better. And that's, you can look at that liking on to glasses as well, you know? But continuing, because prescribed glasses, I should say specifically, is used to help improve visibility. But it says, and even enhancing the appearance of a space, you know? And that's even heavier too, because you look at, like when you go to like a convenience store, grocery store, whatever, right? They have like that little mirror joint that's like kind of like a dome, if you will, or like a semi-sphere, you know, of a mirror that goes on to show you the space that you're in, you know what I'm saying, or what you're about to walk into, so that way you have an idea of what's coming, you know? Like if you going down a specific aisle, you know, and you get to the end of the aisle where it's, you know, like the main way, you able to see off of looking at that who's coming, you know? So like, I just use that as an example to show how it can enhance the appearance of the space, you know, but taking that into a spiritual aspect, this is going to allow you to be able to see what you surround yourself with, what you should surround yourself with, and what you shouldn't surround yourself with. You know what I'm saying? Having a better scope, idea, perspective of what's in your surroundings. You know what I'm saying? So all these traits completely tie into what the scriptures are able to do, you know, which is so beautiful, right? So we're gonna get my first scripture, because all the scriptures I have just tie into how, one, the Lord's word is a mirror, but then two, how are you to go about facing yourself when you're looking into the mirror, when you're reading His word, when you're dealing with the Lord's word, you know what I'm saying, wanting to be a part of this ministry, if the Lord has chosen you to be a part of this ministry, you know, because those two things go hand in hand, you know. You have to be willing, you have to be seeking, right, to do this, right? Like closed mouths don't get fed, if you will, you know. So if you truly seeking and you trying to knock on the Lord, you know what I'm saying, and you doing it with the right intentions, right, He only gonna give you that mirror for you to be able to look at yourself, you know. So this is 2 Corinthians 13 and verse 5. It says, examine yourselves whether ye be in the faith, prove your own selves, right? It says, know ye not, it's like, know ye not your own selves, how that Yahushua Hamashiach is in you, except ye be reprobates. You see, and Yahushua Hamashiach is the Lord's only begotten Son's true name in the Paleo Hebrew, in the Hebrew tongue, the Lashawan Kodash, right? And who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, because he was a Hebrew, he spoke Hebrew, right? So he wasn't a Greek, and his name isn't an English name. You know what I'm saying? The letter J wasn't created until 1524, which is way long past the time that he walked the earth. And on top of that, again, he was a Hebrew, so he had a Hebrew name, right? And also knowing what the scriptures go on to say, the Hebrew tongue, right, is gonna hold more force, more power, you know, than a bastard's tongue, a bastard's language, a language that isn't of the Lord. Because the language that is of the Lord is the Hebrew tongue, you know, specifically the ancient Hebrew, the Paleo Hebrew, right? So that's why when we go on to read, and that's why when we go on to pray, when we give praise, we use the Lashawan Kodash, the holy tongue, you know, and that's why we go on to use the Lord's name, His true name, you know, and His only begotten Son's true name, right? Yahweh, right? He is Bahashem, Ba in Ha the Shem name, Yahweh Shai. He is salvation, right? Being who people know to be Jesus, you know. And Hamashiach is the anointed being, what Christ means, you know. So reading that, that's what that means. Just for those that don't know, that are watching, you know, for the first time and trying to understand what's being said, that's what that is. So again, I'm gonna read it one more time just to keep to the point. Examine yourselves whether ye be in the faith, and prove your own selves. You see, and we're gonna get those words too, examine and prove. It says, know ye not your own selves, how that Yahushua Hamashiach is in you, except ye be reprobates. You see? So, let me see. We gonna get it in the Blue Letter Bible. Right, so this is examine in the Strongs. Right, when you go into the interlinear concordance, right, it's gonna show you the word in English, and then it's gonna show you the Strongs, right, and then it's gonna show you the transliterated version of it within either the Hebrew or the Greek. But in this case, since this is in the New Testament, it's in Greek. So the Strongs here, right, it's gonna be the word.
Strong's G 3985, Pyrazzo. Pyrazzo.
So pyrazzo, right? Which it says for examining here, it says to try whether a thing can be done, to attempt, endeavor. It says to try, make a trial of, test. It says for the purpose of ascertaining his quality, or what he thinks, or how he will behave himself, right? And these are all things being considered, you know. This is giving understanding to what it is to examine, you know. It says, in a good sense, in a bad sense, it says to test one's to test one maliciously, craftily, to put to proof his feelings and judgments, right? Seeing what's good and seeing what's bad, you know. That which I have that on deck as well. The Sirach 37 and 27. You know what I'm saying? Proving your soul and seeing what's evil for it, what's good and evil for it, you know, or what's evil for it, if I'm not mistaken. I'm just roughly paraphrasing off the top of my head and giving not that onto it, you know. You got to know what's good and evil, right? Because that's a balance. The Lord deals with both, you know. Having an idea of both allows you to be able to build the correct moral compass within the Lord's words, because you are able to comprehend what's evil when you see it, and comprehend and know what is good when you see it, you know. So you know what to cleave to and what to refrain from, you know. But continuing here, it says, to try to test one's faith, virtue, character, right, by enticement to sin, to solicit to sin, to tempt of the temptations of the devil. It says, after the Old Testament usage, it says of God to inflict evils upon one in order to prove his character and the steadfastness of his faith, you know. And that makes me think of Job, right? The situation with Job, you know, how you know, the conversation that was being had between the Most High and Satan, you know, as far as how they were, how Satan was gonna go about trying to basically afflict him in a certain way, right? To prove, in his mind, he was trying to prove that he not for the Lord, you know. He gonna curse you, you know, if I mess him up enough, you know. But that's why we go through all these experiences, because it's a trial, it's a test, you know what I'm saying, for you to be able to truly examine yourself and see what's going on, what's happening, what's the end goal, what's my purpose, what am I to do, all in the name of the Lord, you know, as far as giving praise to him and seeking after him. How are you going to be going about trying to deal with these things that come your way? And are you going to trust in the Lord the whole way? Are you going to distrust in the Lord? Or are you going to curse the Lord? You know what I'm saying? Or are you going to praise the Lord, beseech the Lord? You know, all these different things, right? It's, you know, like survival of the fittest, you know. Who gonna withstand all the trials and tribulations, all the afflictions, all all the things that try to get in the way of us running this race. You know, it's like a cross country race. You know, where you got all different types of terrain that you're running in the midst of. You know, ultimately still with the intention of making it to the end of that race, getting to the finish line. You know, but continuing, it says, men are said to tempt God by exhibitions of distrust, as though they wish to try whether he is not justly distrusted. It says, by impious or wicked conduct to test God's justice and patience, and to challenge him, as it were, to give proof of his perfections. It says in the Strong's definition, to test, i.e. endeavor, scrutinize, entice, discipline. Say, examine, to go about, to prove, right, to try something. Shalakia. So, these are all different characteristics or analogies that's being presented as far as what it is to examine something, right? So now we go to the word. Oh, you know what? Actually, let me do this too. I'm gonna look it up and see what it says in the Oxford Dictionary, right? So the word examine in the Oxford Dictionary says to inspect someone or something thoroughly in order to determine their nature or conduct. You see, and that's basically what you've seen within the definition that the Blue Letter Bible gives, you know, as far as how it said, let me just get it real quick because I don't want to butcher it. How it says, of God to inflict evils upon one in order to prove his character and steadfastness and the steadfastness of his faith, right? So let me see, get that word again for examine. So right here, when it says inspect someone or something thoroughly in order to determine their nature or conduct, that's what you see there, you know, as far as the going about to prove somebody's faith, you know what I'm saying, the steadfastness of their faith and their conduct and how they go about doing, you know. What is it that you gonna do? What is it that you gonna rely on? What is your reaction, you know what I'm saying, to these specific actions? How do you react? You know, what do you lean upon when you're reacting? Things like that, right? This is like the part of like facing yourself as far as looking, you know. Cause how do I say it? When you read the word, right, you're receiving knowledge, you know, which is likened onto examining something, you know. And then when you apply that, when you're applying that of what you received, you know what I'm saying, you gain understanding, right, which is proven basically, you know. That's the action of getting your gears turning, you know what I'm saying, and really considering what it is that's in front of you, really considering what is within you, really considering what these specific things are going to lead to, the cause and the effects of your day-to-day, your actions, your thoughts, you know what I'm saying, all these different things, right? What pertains to you, you know, understanding all of what that entails, right? What is your measure? What falls under your measure, what goes above your measure, keeping it there, you know. And within that measure, what of these things pleases the Lord, you know? How is it me doing this, right? Or me trying to be like this? How is that gonna help me to please the Lord, you know? So it says, for the second definition, and I'll show this on the screen as well in a second. It says, test the knowledge or proficiency of someone by requiring them to answer questions or perform tasks, right? It says, formally question a defendant or witness in court, compare with cross-examine, right? And Shalakia, this be backwards. See what I can do as far as trying to change that to where it's not backwards. But yeah, so that's that for examine. So now we're gonna go to the word proof, right? Which they correspond with one another as well, as far as prove and examine, But it says here for examine in the Greek.
Strong's G 1381. Dokimazo.
Dokimazo, right? You can see that as well, right there, right? That's the Strong's at the top, right there in gold, about like right there, right? So it says to test, examine, prove, scrutinize, to see whether a thing is genuine or not. Man, this is as metals. And that's heavy because it's like being put through the furnace of adversity, When you look at something being purified, how is it that something is able to be purified? Through heat and pressure. That heat and pressure is only pushing you to be more defined, more solid, more pure, because it's getting rid of all the excess and the waste and stuff, right? So, it's just spiritual, as it says, as metals, but it says to recognize as genuine after examination, to approve or deem worthy, right? That's like how being able to give a verdict, or being able to do, if you will. You know what I'm saying? And that was like how I said, when you apply that knowledge, you gain understanding. You know what I'm saying? It's the action of doing something, Examining is still an action, right? But it's like for you to examine something, you know what I'm saying? Like you could just be looking at something, if you will, just keeping it simple, and then proving is like the action of, bam, here, it's this, bop, 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 you know what I'm saying? You putting the puzzle pieces together to where it's able to be seen clearly, And with us doing that, right, then you're also able to give that to somebody else for them to be able to examine and also see how it works, see how the puzzle comes together. You know what I'm saying? And this is all a part of how you go on to face yourself in the mirror, What is it that you're doing with the Lord's word, right? Facing yourself in the mirror is you facing your reality and yourself within the Lord's word completely, So, in the Strong's definition, it says to test, by implication, to approve, allow, discern, right? Examine, right? So that word prove, let's see what it says. In the Oxford Dictionary, it says to demonstrate the truth or existence of something by evidence or argument. It says demonstrate to be a specified thing by evidence or argument. To be seen or found to be, prove oneself, demonstrate one's ability or courage. Man, that's heavy. Test the accuracy of a mathematical calculation. Really, I say the point there is like how it says to test the accuracy of, because you test how accurate this word is, and with you truly seeking it and you seeking it for the right intentions, the Lord's just going to manifest it in front of you for you to see, and that's that light shining into that reflection, if you will, It says, let me see. Yeah, that's pretty much like the main two, you know what I'm saying? The first and the second one. So, that's able to be seen clearly. So yeah. So that's those 2 words right there, right? And what we're gonna do now, we see. Yeah, kind of. So we're gonna grab our next verse right here. And mind you, again, just, quick recap, right? With you doing these things, as far as you going on to read, to receive the knowledge, right? And then you applying what that knowledge that you received to gain understanding, right? To prove it, right? Examining and proving, you're making sure that you're not a reprobate. You're making sure that you're seeing what manner of man that you are. You know what I'm saying? You're actively looking at yourself to be able to see the imperfections, right? And then through the Lord, with his power, you know what I'm saying, you able to perfect those things, all by means of, you know what I'm saying, how you are to perfect yourself, You want to try to make yourself in the likeness of somebody else, in somebody else's lot, you know what I'm saying? You are to perfect yourself within your lot, your situation, your role, staying within your measure and making sure that you perfect yourself within that, and that's all through you seeing what manner of man that you are, man or woman, So now jump into the next verse I got. Let me see. Yeah, this is James 1 verse 22. I'm gonna read to 25, and I'm also gonna read it in what is it? The ERV as well. Right. So this is James 1 verse 22. It says, "But be ye doers of the word, and not hearers only, deceiving your own selves. For if any be a hearer of the word, and not a doer, he is like unto a man beholding his natural face in a glass," right? And that glass is like unto a mirror. It says, "For he beholdeth himself, and goeth his way, and straightway forgetteth what manner of man he was. But whoso looketh into the perfect law of liberty, and continueth therein, he being not a forgetful hearer, but a doer of the work, this man shall be blessed in his deed." Right? And in the ERV, it says this. It says, "Do what God's teaching says. Don't just listen and do nothing." It says, "When you only sit and listen, you are fooling yourselves. Hearing God's teaching and doing nothing is like looking at your face in the mirror and doing nothing about what you saw. You go away and immediately forget how bad you looked." You see? It says, "But when you look into God's perfect law that sets people free, pay attention to it. If you do what it says, you will have God's blessing. Never just listen to his teaching and forget what you heard." You see? And that's what's important. Holding on to those things, right? You proving it is you understanding it. You know what I'm saying? You have to hold on to that understanding, because that's a blessing for you, for the Lord to be able to give that to you, to give you that understanding, for you to be able to comprehend what's being said here, comprehend the way that you are to operate, the way that you are to move within these situations, because everybody in the world thinks they got it, but they not going about entertaining or dealing with any of these things with the Lord at the center of it, with them doing it with the Lord in mind, They're not doing or achieving these things truly seeking the Lord, or seeking to please the Lord with the within these things, which is why you will see they end up becoming miserable having all these things, because they're going about all these things and dealing with these things, never reflecting on themselves, never looking to the Lord. They're just constantly being pulled and occupied with all these other things, to where then they fall away from dealing with the Lord, dealing with the Lord's word, and dealing with the Lord's ministry, and dealing with his wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. You know, because it's his wisdom, knowledge, and understanding that's going to allow you to be able to operate and move in and out of the world without going on to destroy yourself. You know, that's why you are to lose all that you have within this world just to gain it with the Lord. Because with it being established within the Lord, it has the ultimate foundation where it can't be moved, you know? And that's like when you look at yourself in that mirror, right? And you're seeing what looks bad, you know, you using the Lord to help perfect it is not gonna be it's not gonna fall apart, you know. It's not gonna be something that can be altered, you know. It's gonna be pure. It's not gonna have a blemish, you know. It's gonna be without blemish, you know, without spots, and that's what we are to strive for, you know. It's like you. So, within this James 1:22, you know what I'm saying, and through verse 25, you're able to see what's being spoken is that faith with the works, you know, having both corresponding with one another, you know, believing and doing, right? Seeing, believing, right? And then speaking, taking action, showing it, right? Manifesting, bearing fruit, you know, because you're doing that all under the Lord gonna give you the increase, you know. But what's being said here in the James 1, right, is it isn't about just looking at yourself, you know. When you face yourself in the mirror, it's not just looking at yourself, you know, i.e. it's not just about knowing, you know. It's about what it is that you are to basically doing what you got to do and being how you got to be right, you know, to be holy, to be of the Lord's chosen, to be of the elect, to be of that number, to be without spot, to be without blemish, you know. That's what facing your fear is, you know. And going about doing these things in this specific manner is like the step by step, if you will, of how you face yourself in the mirror. You know, you got to make sure that you're really using your eyes, right, your spiritual eyes, to be able to see what it is that's in front of you, to see what it is within you, and to be able to take action. You know, you spill milk, you just gonna sit there and look at it, you know, you gonna cry over spilled milk? No. You gonna get a napkin and towel, you gonna clean it up, you know. The just man falls 7 times but get it back up, you know. We aren't perfect, but we are to strive for that perfection. Because only through him are we gonna be able to receive that and obtain that, you know. So that's why we gotta strive for it through him. And with you doing it through him, you only putting yourself in a position to have the best outcome. So, we can go ahead and grab my next scripture. Like, this is Philippians chapter 2, verse 12. I'm gonna read through 15. It says, wherefore, my beloved, as ye have always obeyed, not as in my presence only, but now much more in my absence, work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. Right? It says, for it is God which worketh in you both to will and to do of his good pleasure. You see, with you in your mind, obeying the Lord, right? Keeping his commandments, because that's how you go on to show love, right? And that's how you go on to receive love. You are to work out your own salvation. That work is action, that is doing, you know. But you having the faith and believing that you're going to be blessed, that you're going to receive blessings following him, right? You going about it in a way to where you are having that will, the willingness, right? That being willing, which is, you know what I'm saying, that faith, and the doing is the proving, you know what I'm saying, of you proving what it is that pleases the Lord, you know, and has, as it says here, his good pleasure, you know. I want to say Romans 12:2 goes into that, you know, as far as being not conformed to this world, but being transformed, you know what I'm saying? And how does it say? I don't want to even butcher it. I just want to get it. Let the scripture speak. Romans 12:2 says, be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove, right there, prove, you see, may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. You see, that proving, it's about the action, right? And the objective that you're trying to achieve with it, you know, which is what you are to do and how you are to be, you know, and then maintaining that, and when it is the right moments, obtaining more, you know what I'm saying, to be better. You want to be trying to bear more fruit, you know. You don't want to be complacent, be in the same space, the same position, you know, because you always want to be getting better, you know. You can never go far enough with the Lord, right? Which I want to say that's in Sirach 43, you know, roughly paraphrasing. But you can never go far enough as far as trying to praise the Lord, please the Lord, you know. Always seeking to do more, always seeking to be better for the right intentions, you know. Not doing it to be seen of man, not doing it just to do it, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's like the difference between the old the ancient days when we were doing sacrifices. Mugs just make the sacrifice because they know, oh, it's gonna have me clean, but never really internally seeing the sacrifice is a representation of you, you know. Let me be better so that way I don't have to kill myself, if you will. You know what I'm saying? So I don't have to kill something pure just to make myself pure, you know? I don't have to hurt somebody else to, you know what I'm saying, to make myself better. I'm going to afflict myself in a way that's only going to push me to be better and to be stronger, you know? Really reflecting, really paying attention, looking at yourself, you know? Really facing yourself in that mirror. It's like you. Right, so it says, verse 14, do all things without murmurings and disputings. It says that ye may be blameless and harmless. So like that ye may be blameless and harmless, the sons of God, without rebuke in the midst of a crooked and perverse nation, among whom ye shine as lights in the world. You see, and that makes me that takes me to Matthew 5:16. But that light, again, is what you see within the purpose of a mirror, right? Because it said what? The primary purpose of a mirror is to reflect light and create an image of what's in front of it, you know? Righteousness is right in front of you. You just have to be able to see it, you know? See how it is that you can take hold of it and put it onto yourself, you know? Put it within yourself, you know? So that way you're that light, right? Because go on to say here, I'm going to start at 14, right? This is Matthew 5:14. It says, "Ye are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hid." It says, "Neither do men light a candle to put it under a bushel," right? You don't light a candle just to hide it, you know? It says, "But on a candlestick, and it giveth light unto all that are in the house." You see? Verse 16, and it's the point. "Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven." You see? So with you obtaining all these things, right? With you examining, with you proving the Lord's word, right? And you going on to prove it to yourself, test the Lord's word, and see the cause and the effect with you doing these things, right? And seeing how, with the right intentions, you going about these things, with the right purpose, you going about these things, with the right actions, right? You going about these things, the benefits and the reward that comes with it, you know? With you receiving all of that, now you can give it to somebody else. Help them to be able to see what it is that's been shown to you, you know? And it's not to force feed somebody, none of it. You simply being you in your position and being in your light, right? Going on to profess it within your day-to-day actions, people are gonna see it, you know? And it's only going to do what? As it says, glorify your Father which is in heaven, you know? So, I'm gonna bring up that Sirach real quick, and I got two more scriptures, and that'll be it. This is Sirach 37 and verse 27. It says, "My son, prove thy soul in thy life, and see what is evil for it, and give not that unto it. For all things are not profitable for all men, neither have every soul pleasure in everything." You see? And what's heavy about that, neither every soul, right? Keeping in mind what it has said in the Philippians 2, right? Doing the how I say, because I don't even want to butcher it, you know, because it was just so on point. So I can. Because I see it clearly. Okay. How it says in Philippians 2 and 13, says, "For it is God which worketh in you both to will and to do of his good pleasure," right? So how it says, not every soul, how it says, neither every soul pleasure in everything, right? That also includes the Lord. That also includes the Most High, you know? Because again, you want to be doing what it is ultimately that pleases the Most High, you know? So with you going to prove what is evil for your soul, you're also going on to prove what is not pleasing to the Lord, right? What is not pleasing ultimately to you, you know? Because it's of the Lord that you're going to get what you get, you know? So with you going about it like that, you only putting yourself in a better position. You know what I'm saying? You're only putting yourself in a better position, right? So, you know what? That's it. That I don't even need to get the other ones. You know, Salaki. I'm I'm gonna just grab them just cause. But the point is proven, to say the least. You know, these is just adding a little cherry on top. Man. Oh, man. Yeah. Hey, call Allah, y'all bless me outside. This is 1 Thessalonians 5:19, and the point is going to be in verse 23. It says, quench not the spirit, despise not prophesying, prove all things, hold fast that which is good, abstain from all appearance of evil. Man, with you facing yourself in the mirror, you have to see what's evil and then abstain from that. Replace that with something good. Let me get this bull crap off of me, you know, clean your face, right? So now you look good. You know what I'm saying? It says, verse 23, and the very God of peace sanctify you wholly. And I pray, God, your whole spirit and soul and body be preserved blameless unto the coming of our Lord, Yahweh Shah HaMashiach. You see, that's the outcome that you want to strive for when you're facing yourself in the mirror. You know, striving for that perfection, right? Making sure that you have the right apparel on. You having that wedding garment on, so that you can come into the marriage, you know? And this will be the last one. Man, beautiful. So like you see, ain't trying to mess with stuff. Okay. This is 2 Peter chapter 3 and verse 14. It says, wherefore, beloved, seeing that ye look for such things, be diligent that ye may be found of him in peace, without spot and blameless. You see? So, with you facing yourself in that mirror, you looking to see what the imperfections are, see what looks bad on you, in you, right? And get rid of those things, right? With you getting rid of those things, now you have space for the Lord to be able to perfect it and give you things that are right, things that are good, things that are gonna be pleasing to you, things that's gonna help you, you know? And that's the objective, right? That's why it's so important for you to constantly reflect on yourself and constantly look in this mirror, you know, in his word. Being in this ministry, you have to be willing to do that. You have to be willing to face yourself in the mirror, face yourself in his word, you know? And that's that heat and pressure, but it's only going to purify you. It's only, that's all it's going to do, you know? Not to say that's all it's going to do, but that's what the Lord's word is going to do for you, for sure. So, again, that's pretty much it. Lord, this has been edifying. With that, I'm going to say, call Allah, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Wahara Kakwadash. Till next time, Salam.